Mama. Welcome to the One Income Family podcast. Do you have a goal of eating healthy? Do you feel like you're unable to achieve that goal all because you live on one income? Well, let me tell you that does not have to be a fear of yours anymore. You can totally live healthy and eat healthy foods on a budget. Like, that is not an issue. You just have to know how to do it, right? So today I am going all in on how I feed my family healthy meals on a budget, which I could talk about all day. So I narrowed in on 7 specific habits that help me eat healthy on a budget in 3 specific areas. So we're first going to go in the grocery store, then out of the grocery store, and then finally in your home. So go grab yourself a pen and paper because there are going to be some juicy notes that you're going to want to make sure that you write down, right? And I want you to know that I can do it. You can too. So let's get to it. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, Mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I want to invite you to grab a budget coaching session. You, Mama, you're here listening to the podcast because you're struggling to stick to your budget. And I want to be clear and make sure that you know that there is absolutely no shame in that. But instead of staying stuck in the continuous cycle of budgeting just so you can throw it out the window, I want to challenge you to break it, to take your first step towards financial success and get yourself a budget coaching session with me. Learn why you are struggling to stick to your budget and create healthy systems so that you can replace it with good, healthy habits. With the right systems in place, budgeting can be simple and easy to stick to. So go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell. That's CALENDLY.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL, and see if this is what you have been looking for. Alrighty, so obviously I did not all of a sudden get all of these habits like just to come into fruition all at once, right? It was a slow and gradual process as I learned things that not only that I could do in my own capacity, but also that just made sense, right? And so that is why I want to share these with you. I don't want you to take them and try to do every single one of them, because they are things that you have to learn and you have to get used to doing, right? But they are things that can help you. Like, you can think about them and you can say, okay, I have the capacity for this one, so let's dive into this habit and try to make this one stick, right? So the first one that I'm talking about, we're going to go into the grocery store. So what I suggest when you are in the grocery store, the first habit that I have created is that I mostly stick to the outskirts of the store. And I never really realized that until I was talking to my husband's dad. We were talking about like eating healthy, and he's like, oh, well, all you have to do then is just stay on the outskirts of the stores. You don't walk down the aisles. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never really realized that, because that's where your cheeses, your dairy products, right? Your meats, your produce, they're on the outskirts. They're not on or they're on the walls of the grocery store, at least in Walmart, because that's all I really have around here is Walmart, right? They're not in the aisles themselves. And I'm like, that just makes so much sense. Like, that is what I do, is I try to buy as much in the outskirts of those aisles or of the store. And then, I mean, there's obviously the exception of like your baking aisle and your grains, because you do need those kind of things. But I try to like just focus in on, okay, I need noodles. I go in and I grab those. I don't look around at what else could be there. Or I need rice. I go in and I grab that because I just get the main item. I don't get the pre-made meals. I don't get the pre-made sauces, well, sometimes I get the pre-made sauces because, there are those nights when you want to get something done quickly, but I try not to. I'm not perfect, as I'm sure nobody is. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I try to just stick to the outskirts of the store because that is where a majority of your healthier food products are. And then going from there, I go and I look at the prices and I look at the labels. The labels will tell me like what they've been made with, if it's something that I can even read and understand, right? Or if it's something that is like the price. So for instance, and I'm kind of jumping out of order here, which there really isn't any order, but I make my own lunch meats. And I do that because, lunch meat itself is extremely unhealthy for you and it tastes disgusting. And so we eat a lot of sandwiches around here. So I try to make my own lunch meat. And how I do that is I buy a big roast. And we do have a meat slicer that we got given to us when we got married. But I have yet to actually pull that out and use it. I just think it's faster to pull my knife out and just quickly cut it into thick strips, right? Maybe one of these days I'll be like, okay, I want to get it out and actually try it. But as of right now, I just use a knife. But anyways, what I do is I look at the price of the meat. So for instance, when I want ham, I go and I look at the price per pound. I'm not just going to buy any ham out there because there's ham out there that's already been sliced. That's going to cost more per ounce. You can go to the deli and buy the ham up there, which is a better quality, I would say, because it's more expensive. But I'm also not going to pay $10 per pound when we go through about 3 pounds a week for lunches, right? So because I know that information, I can go out and I can buy a lower price per pound meat that's better quality. It usually means that it's unseasoned. It means that it's the whole thing. There's probably, if it's a ham, there's a bone in it. Some of the other meats, there may be a bone in it, but that's just something that you have to look into. You have to see, what can my budget handle? What do I want to have? And how can I make a compromise in between there, right? So that's what I do for that kind of situation. Oh, I also make sure that I buy frozen veggies. So I buy frozen veggies, one, because I feel like I get more bang for the buck versus getting the canned items, right? But in all reality, it's also a better product because it's created in season. So that means that you're going to get everything that comes with it, all the nutrients and everything that comes with it, because it's fresh and thrown in the freezer right away. So you don't have as much of that ickiness and stuff to make it grow when it's not in season, right? So then that is everything that I try to do in the store. The things that I talk about for out of the store are things like growing a garden. That's one thing that I am working on right now, learning how to grow a garden. I'm not great at it yet, so I'm just focused on fresh eating. I would eventually love to have my garden be preserved so that I can eat the produce from it throughout the entire year and not have to rely on the store. Just because, one, it's going to cut some costs, and two, it's going to be so much better. Like, I got so excited the first cucumber that I was able to pick. I just wanted to eat it right there out in the garden, right? And so that is one thing that I focus on doing is I grow a garden. It doesn't matter if you have a big space to grow a garden in or small space to grow a garden in. It will definitely help you, cut some costs as long as you're not going overboard on some things, right? Because it can suck you in and you can definitely buy a whole lot extra than you actually need. But it's a fun thing to do. It's also so much better for you because you know where everything's coming from. You know if there's pesticides on it, all of that kind of stuff. And so growing a garden is something that I am super glad that I started doing, and I do have goals and hopes and dreams for it to get bigger and better and everything as I grow and I learn from my garden and my mistakes that I make, right? Unfortunately, it's not something you can just quickly fix. You have to wait an entire year to redo it, right? But it's still something that has been awesome for me to start digging into and growing, right? Another thing that I do outside of the grocery store for produce or meat, I should say, is I buy a quarter of a beef and a half a hog every single year. And it is so much better quality food than what you get at the store. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing all this stuff out there of how some meat is getting created in a lab. I don't know if I've visually seen that yet, but the thought of that just makes me go, ooh, no, thank you. At least I know exactly where my meat's coming from because it's local, right? And it also, because you're buying at price per pound, your steaks that are generally more expensive are actually cheaper. So in the long run, and looking at the price of everything, like your roasts and your steaks that generally are a higher price point, they are technically lower because you're buying everything all at one price point. And so it just makes it a lower. I should sit down and try to figure out an actual thing for that. So look out for that. Maybe one of these days I'll have a price per pound and how much money you actually save buying a whole animal or a quarter of an animal. I have aspirations to eventually be able to raise my own animals, but again, that's something that I have to figure out. Is it cost effective, or should I just continue to buy from someone local who does it all the time, right? So those are things that I am working on right now in my brain as to what system to work on, what habit I should do and what I shouldn't do, and what's the healthier option, but also financially feasible, right? Okay, so then those are the things that I do outside of the house or outside of the grocery store. And now what I do in my house, which this is something that I've kind of talked about before, but it's kind of evolved since then, is I try to cook from scratch as much as I possibly can. And before you jump in and say, oh my gosh, I can't do that, there are levels of it. So some of the first level could just be a dump and go kind of thing, where you have a whole bunch of simple ingredients that you throw into a crock pot all at once and you turn it on and let it go, right? Those are technically my favorite kind of meals because they're quick and easy, but there are times that I do like to cook. And so I like to have some more elaborate kind of meals sometimes, but I still try to stick to 3 to 5 main ingredients and then let the seasonings be the thing that makes it taste different, right? But that's something that I have definitely been working on, is making sure that I am cooking from scratch, that I am using up my leftovers, whether it's just repeating the same meal on the next day, or whether it's using, maybe there's just meat left over, using that one item to make a new meal kind of thing. There can be so many ways that you can cook from scratch. And again, like I said, there are levels of it. I have just finally entered into the bread baking level, which is literally from scratch. And I would love to be the person who eventually is grinding my own grains and buying it from a local source, because we do have somebody here in Nebraska, which I didn't know we had, that has the grains that I can buy. My dad bought me a grain grinder for Christmas because that's when I was like really diving into this, but I have yet to use it because I've kind of faded out of that for a little bit because it's gotten a little overwhelming and time consuming with all of the other projects that I have going on. Plus, my kitchen is kind of a disaster right now. Like, I'm trying to finish painting. I say finish, even though I've restarted, but I'm trying to complete my kitchen painting project, which I started when I bought the house 3 years ago. And the color that I painted it was just too dark, so I didn't stick with that to finish the cabinets because it just, yeah, it was really dark. So I got new colors and I've focused on getting it done, but my kitchen is still a mess. So baking is not something that I am doing a lot of, and I'm trying to do a lot of like crock pot meals and simple meals so that I can spend more time and energy on the projects that need done around here instead of the food source, right? So these were things like there was a time I was playing volleyball in the spring, that's what it was. And I made pizza every single week, homemade, fresh baked pizza to take in the car because I was like, well, that's the most simplest thing and less messy kind of to eat in the car for the girls. And I knew that I could make it and I could pre-make the bread and throw it in the refrigerator and then cook it the day of kind of thing. And that definitely saved on cost there because then I wasn't eating out every single night. But it got, like I said, time consuming and a little overwhelming with everything else that I have going on. So I kind of just paused the bread baking and I'll get back into that when I'm not so overwhelmed with all the projects going on. But yeah, those are the habits that I really kind of try to focus on when it comes to healthy eating because that's what it takes. It takes a little more time and a little more effort when you live on one income, right? Because frugal living, in my definition, is essentially creating a plan for your money in every area of your life. And I mean a more detailed plan than just how much money you're going to put in the budget, right? Because that's what a budget is deciding how much money to put in each category. Well, for your frugal living, you've got to figure out the systems that you're going to put in place, the habits that you're going to embrace that are going to give you good, healthy, strong money habits that you don't have to think about. Like you create a system and then it just becomes second nature. It becomes a routine that you're like, okay, well, this is what I like to do. This is what I need to look for. It does take more time in the beginning when you're learning things, which is why I'm currently taking a break on the baking, right? But it's something that once you've figured out what it is that you want to do and how you want to just dive into it and create a system that works for you and your family and foods that you like, then it's a lot easier to do. And the fear of not being able to eat healthy isn't a factor anymore. It's just a matter of what you're going to do and what system you're going to put in place so that you can eat the way that you want, right? Okay, so I'm going to recap what it is the 7 habits that I talked about. So shop on the outskirts of the store and try not to buy pre-made meals, right? Like that is the biggest factor right there. Like pre-made meals, like it just sucks up your money. It takes away everything. I'm not joking. If you look at the produce and if you look at meat is kind of a high ticket item too. But if you look at those prices compared to like if you were to buy a pre-made meal, it's a lot higher. Like the price for chicken or the price for the vegetable because they've already made it and put it together. One, the contents are not as good. Like it's not good at all. Like packaged chicken that is already cut up. Like I tasted that one day and I'm like, this is really icky. I don't like this. Tasted like rubber, and I don't know what they put on it. I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to bake my own chicken or throw it in the crock pot or in the Instant Pot and just let it quickly get made, and then throw it in the mixer and let it shred the chicken, right? That's so easy to do, so fast, so simple, and it's like made healthy eating so much easier for me. Those are the systems, those are the hacks that you have to figure out in your kitchen, in your home, that's going to make the healthy eating simple and easy for you to do rather than overwhelming and stressful, right? There are ways to do it. You just have to figure out what it is for you specifically. Okay, so back to the recap. Shop the outskirts of the store. Check your prices per pound, per ounce, per brand, because it's going to be different per brand. Sometimes, like Tyson, you're just buying the brand name. You're not buying the quality of the product, because it's a lot of the products that you buy are the same, like made in the same place. It's just slapped a different label on it. Like, that is all it is. Look into that before you like take it for a word, because sometimes they aren't, and they do taste differently, but a lot of the times it's the same. So check your prices, check your labels, check bulk. I didn't talk about that, but make sure, like, bulk items, make sure that that's actually something that's a cost-effective price, right? Because sometimes even a bigger bulk item can be more expensive than the smaller product. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. Buy frozen veggies because they are better quality, they last longer, and they were bagged in season. Oh, I think I forgot to talk about buying produce when it's in season. As I'm going through my list, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm forgetting things. So make sure that you're also buying produce when it's in season, because when it's out of season, it takes more effort, it takes more products, it takes more energy to create that product. It takes like a different kind of environment. I don't think you get the nutrients. I mean, I don't have the science behind this, but I don't think the nutrients are as good when it's out of season. Like, if you taste something out of season versus in season, it tastes totally different. Even just in the store. I'm not talking about like garden versus the store. I'm specifically just talking about produce in the store and eating like a cucumber in the wintertime versus eating it now, right? They taste totally different. They're not going to last as long. They look different. And so that is why you want to make sure it's also cheaper, but you want to make sure that you are buying produce in season because you're going to get your best bang for your buck and it's going to be healthier and better for you. Okay, which with that note is also why I buy the frozen veggies, because then I'm still buying them technically in season, right? Okay, just had to make a note of that as well. But after buying produce when it's in season, then I buy a quarter of beef and a half a hog. I save up for it throughout the year, so then it's not like hitting me hard when it's time to buy it, right? Also, the person that I buy from allows me to make payments and they get a discount for it because I'm technically paying for the feed for my cow, or my steer, I should say, as the year goes, right? So it's easier on their pocketbook and it's easier on my pocketbook because I'm doing it a monthly price. And then at the end, I just have like a little section left over, right? So, I buy a quarter of beef and a half a hog. I also try to grow my own garden, which is still a work in progress. And then the seventh thing is that I cook from scratch as much as I possibly can. Yes, I'm still working on like the baking breads and other goodies. I'm not a big baker. I think it's because I like sweets too much, so I try not to cook them. But I'm trying not to bake them. But even then, if you are baking your own goodies versus buying those cookies or brownies or cake, whatever it is, from the store, even boxed items, it is so much more healthier for you. Like, I am not joking there. I don't have the scientific facts, but look into it. You are getting better quality grains. You're getting better quality milk and oils and all the other stuff that goes into those. And so you can also decide, you know what's going in there. You can decide if you want to get like butter that is like olive oil based or canola oil based. You get to choose that stuff that gets to go in it. So it is so much more healthier for you versus buying them from the store. So think about that as well. Maybe that's something that you want to start doing, is saying, hey, kids, let's make some cookies this week or something like that. And just ease into it. Don't do it all the time. Don't do it every single week, because that's how you get stressed and burnt out, which is why I'm taking a break. But it definitely is something that can help you create those better habits, is just by slowly easing into them instead of just drowning yourself and trying to do every single one of these. So I hope that you took notes, because I want to challenge you to take one of these habits and try to implement it into your system, and then bring that habit and how it worked for you or how you're struggling with it over to the free Facebook community, which you can find by going to bit.ly. bit.ly, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on it. The One Income Family Community, that's what it is. So bit.ly/the One Income Family Community. The link is also in the show notes, so if you don't want to have to remember that, you can just go to the show notes. But come over to the free Facebook community or shoot me an email and let's talk about it. Let's see how it worked for you. Let's see how we can tweak it so it can work better for you, because that is my jam. I absolutely love creating systems and routines that will work for you, that will really amplify what it is that you're doing, so that you can create a habit that's going to last you however long you want it to last, right? And it's not going to be something that's stressful or overwhelming, because it's built on you. It's built on your capabilities and what it is that you're able to do, right? So definitely come join the free Facebook group or shoot me an email and let's talk about it. Let's see what habit you want to implement and see how it's working for you, right? Okay, so with that being said, I will see you right back here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Before you go, I hope this episode has ignited a fire inside of you, and I pray that it creates long-lasting impact. Did you know that you too can impact other one-income families? All you have to do is leave a written review, and you help get the podcast in the hands of other mamas in need. You can also text this episode to that friend who is also knee-deep in the same kind of chaos as you and inspire them to make a change. Also, your review lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and that lights me up. I get so excited to hear from you. Another great way that we can connect, though, is through the One Income Family community over on Facebook. So after you're done leaving that 5-star review, head on over to the community, where you will find other mamas working their way out of the chaos. You can ask your questions and connect with others who truly understand what you are going through. I cannot wait to connect with you in the community. Until then, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast.